Welcome to our channel, the darkest corner of YouTube, where shadows whisper and fear takes hold. I'm your host, Sam, and tonight we delve into the chilling world of deserted warehouses, places where echoes of the past linger and darkness reign supreme. We've got 3 terrifying tales of ghostly figures sighted in these desolate giants, so lock your doors, turn off the lights, and let the shivers run down your spine, because tonight we're stepping into the shadows. Our first story takes us to the outskirts of a forgotten town, to a warehouse that stands like a tombstone against the dying light. This is the story of Thomas, a security guard who learned that some places are best left undisturbed. Thomas's night shift started like any other. The air was thick with the silence of solitude, broken only by the hum of fluorescent lights flickering like dying stars. He made his rounds, his footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness, each step a hammer blow against the silence. The warehouse was a labyrinth of towering shelves, shrouded in shadows that seemed to writhe and coil like living things. As Thomas rounded a corner, a cold spot hit him, a sudden drop in temperature that cut through his jacket like an icy blade. It was a localized chill, clinging to the air like a ghostly breath. He paused, his heart pounding in his chest, listening for any sound, any sign of an intruder. But there was nothing, only the suffocating silence pressing down on him. He continued his patrol, but the feeling of being watched clung to him, wrapping around him like an icy shroud. Then he saw it. At the far end of an aisle, a figure stood shrouded in shadows. It was tall and gaunt, its edges blurring in the dim light. It didn't move, didn't even seem to breathe, just stood there watching him with an unseen gaze. Thomas froze, his breath catching in his throat, his blood turning to ice in his veins. He blinked, trying to clear his vision, but the figure remained, etched against the darkness like a nightmare come to life. Fear, primal and consuming, surged through him, urging him to flee. He wanted to scream, to run, but his body refused to obey. He was rooted to the spot, trapped in the gaze of the spectral figure. As he stared, the figure began to move, gliding towards him, its feet not seeming to touch the ground. It moved with an unnatural fluidity, like smoke carried on a gentle breeze. The distance between them closed, the figure growing larger with each passing second. Thomas could feel its icy presence, feel the coldness emanating from it like a wave of death. He closed his eyes, bracing himself for the inevitable. But the touch never came. He opened his eyes slowly, his heart still pounding against his ribs. The figure was gone. He was alone once again, surrounded by the oppressive silence of the deserted warehouse. He didn't wait to investigate, didn't try to rationalize what he had seen. He ran, his footsteps echoing through the empty aisles, each footfall a desperate plea to escape the horrors that lurked in the shadows. He never returned to that warehouse. His encounter forever seared into his memory, a chilling reminder that some places hold secrets best left undisturbed. Our next story takes us deep into the heart of an abandoned industrial complex, a place reclaimed by nature and haunted by the ghosts of its past. This is where a group of urban explorers, armed with cameras and a thirst for adventure, stumbled upon a horror they never expected. Armed with flashlights and a sense of bravado, the group stepped into the belly of the beast, the air thick with the smell of decay and the promise of the unknown. The warehouse was a cathedral of rust and broken glass, sunlight filtering through cracks in the ceiling, painting the dust-covered floor with beams of ethereal light. The group fanned out, their excited chatter echoing through the cavernous space, their cameras clicking, capturing the eerie beauty of the forgotten place. They explored the remnants of a bygone era, their laughter bouncing off the walls, their fear a distant whisper drowned out by the thrill of the unknown. But as they ventured deeper into the heart of the warehouse, the atmosphere shifted, the air turning heavy, the playful banter dying down to uneasy whispers. The shadows seemed to deepen, the silence growing thick and oppressive, punctuated only by the sound of their own breathing. They reached a loading bay, its massive doors creaking in the wind, a sound like the mournful sigh of a forgotten giant. As they stepped inside, the temperature plummeted, a wave of icy air washing over them, stealing their breath. The laughter died in their throats, replaced by an instinctive fear, a primal understanding that they were not alone. One of the explorers, a young woman named Sarah, shivered, pulling her jacket tighter around herself. She felt a presence, cold and unseen, watching them from the shadows. She turned, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, searching for the source of her unease. And that's when she saw it. At the far end of the loading bay, a figure materialized from the shadows, its form shifting and indistinct in the dim light. It was tall and skeletal, its limbs elongated and unnatural, its head wreathed in a swirling mist. Sarah gasped, her blood turning to ice in her veins. She stumbled back, her foot catching on a piece of debris, sending her crashing to the ground. The others whirled around, their flashlights slashing through the darkness, their hearts pounding in their chests. They saw it too, the spectral figure, its eyes burning with a cold, malevolent light. Panic seized the group, their bravado crumbling in the face of true terror. They scrambled to their feet, their cameras forgotten, their only thought to escape the nightmare unfolding before their eyes. They ran, their screams echoing through the desolate halls, their footsteps pounding a frantic rhythm against the concrete floor. The figure did not pursue, but its laughter, cold and hollow, followed them, echoing in their ears long after they had escaped the cursed warehouse. They never returned, their adventure turning into a terrifying memory, a stark reminder that some places are not meant to be explored, some secrets best left buried in the dust and shadows. Our final tale takes us to a working warehouse, a place where the mundane meets the macabre. This is the story of Mark, a warehouse worker who learned that some jobs come with a terrifying price. Mark had worked at the warehouse for years, his days a monotonous routine of stacking boxes and operating machinery. But lately things had been changing, the familiar becoming unsettling. It started subtly with strange noises, whispers that seemed to emanate from the walls, and the clatter of unseen objects falling in the dead of night. He brushed it off at first, attributing it to the age of the building. But as the days turned into weeks, the occurrences grew more frequent and disturbing. Objects began to move on their own, tools disappearing from their spots only to reappear in strange places, and boxes toppling over as if pushed by an unseen hand. The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen presence, a feeling of being watched. One night, as Mark was working late, alone in the vast silence of the warehouse, he heard it. A blood-curdling scream echoing through the empty aisles. He froze, his heart pounding against his ribs. He grabbed the nearest heavy object, a crowbar, his knuckles turning white as he gripped it tightly. He followed the sound, his footsteps echoing in the silence. The scream led him to the shipping area, a cavernous space filled with rows of pallets. He scanned the area, his heart pounding in his chest, his eyes searching for any sign of movement. And that's when he saw it. Standing amongst the pallets, shrouded in shadows, was a figure. It was tall and gaunt, its eyes burning with an unnatural light. The crowbar slipped from his grasp, clattering to the floor, the sound echoing in the silence like a death knell. He wanted to scream, to run, but his feet were rooted to the spot. The figure turned its head slowly, its gaze fixing on Mark. The air crackled with an unseen energy, a wave of cold dread washing over Mark. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, could only stare into the abyss of the figure's eyes. And then, as quickly as it appeared, the figure vanished, dissolving into the shadows. He didn't wait to see if it would return. He fled the warehouse, his footsteps echoing in the emptiness, the image of the ghostly figure seared into his mind. He never returned to that warehouse, his life forever changed by the encounter, his nights haunted by the memory of the ghostly figure and the blood-curdling scream that echoed through his nightmares. Thank you for braving the darkness with us tonight. If you found these tales of ghostly figures and deserted warehouses chilling, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more spine-tingling content. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a descent into darkness. And if you have a chilling tale of your own, a brush with the supernatural, share it in the comments below. Until next time, sleep tight and remember, the shadows are always listening.